dude, that's what pisses me off. People tune in the Rogan, and they think you're just like some schmo, and I just love it because of how modest you are, man. You have over 100 gyms. I just heard when him and Ben Askren were talking about each other to each other. Dude, you got the EBI 15, February 17th. Folks, tune in on UFC Fight Pass. Dude, you're in the corner for Ben Saunders. I know you work with Alan Joban, the beautiful Alan Joban, and then and working with Tony Ferguson, man. How's Tony doing, dude? It's gonna be in our backyard in Brooklyn. How's he doing, man? Did he start training yet? Is he under 200 pounds yet?
Yeah, he started training. He's always training. You know, he's always staying in shape.
How much weed does Tony smoke, man? Come on. I know the UFC, I think it's 2 or 3 weeks. Kelvin Gastelum was telling us. I think 3 weeks from the fight, you have to just stop. Or Demetrius Johnson was telling us.
Yeah. Tony's great about stopping. Like, about a month out, he'll stop cold turkey. But other than that, he enjoys the medicinal benefits of cannabis a lot.
It's not a bit. Listen, it's not a bad thing. And listen,
I'm trying to get my man Pete to try it.
Listen, we've all had our day, but some people react differently. Let's just put it that way. But what I want to know is because this fight, Tony Khabib, we've talked about it for a long time. Khabib had to pull out last time because of tiramisu. But let's be serious. It's happening. You saw his weight cut. It was flawless his last fight. Tony Khabib, April 7th. How are you going to study this man? Because he in the cage is a different type of human being. Those Barboza leg kicks, he walked right through, and it was like he didn't even flinch. What is Tony's mind frame walking into this fight?
I can't really give away too much, but first of all,
have you brought in huge wrestlers?
Khabib is going to be the toughest guy, I think, in the lightweight division, period, for a very long time. Conor would be an easier fight for Tony. Khabib's going to be tough. Nobody is doing what he's doing with his ground and pound and with his takedowns and with his ground control and his smashing. He's the best probably of all time, really. So it's a tall order. But most people are running from Khabib when they're on the ground. They're like just spending most of their time trying to get back up, trying to drag themselves up on the fence, and he just rides them and drags them down. That's good that's a good strategy in certain situations. But, remember, did you see the movie The Warriors?
Yes.
Do you remember when Ajax and his buddy were running from the baseball Furies in the park?
Of course, yes.
Remember that? And remember Ajax's buddy when they're running. He looks over at Ajax and he's running. He goes, I don't think I can make it. He's getting tired. And then Ajax looks over and goes, You sure? He goes, good. I'm tired of running from these, whatever. I don't know, forget what he calls them. But anyways, so at some point with Khabib, you can't just be trying to drag yourself back up to your feet all the time. We're going to turn around and attack him. We're going to thank him for taking Tony down, and we're going to throw some fire at him. It's going to be different. No one's done that to him. And it's, there's anything could happen. I'm sure his defense is going to be, tight, and he's going to be ready. He's going to be studying rubber guard and all that stuff. But we're going to come at him with fire. We're not going to be running on the ground. We're not going to be trying to drag ourselves back up and trying to climb the fence. And that's not going to happen.
Awesome, dude.
We're going to come right at him.
Yeah, because at 216, it was awesome, dude. Beautiful groundwork. All overall on the card with Fabricio taking Walt Harris out of there in 2 seconds. Obviously, Tony working with this Kevin Lee that they made in a fucking laboratory, the UFC, and threw it out to Tony. Tony handled him beautifully. But, dude, I'm getting killed on Twitter, on shows for I want to say, like, pushing Stipe. Can you explain to people that Stipe's top game is not that good? I either wanted a TKO while he was in side control, holding the opposite hip, or maybe there were times where Francis had a fucking white belt hip escape to get back to guard. People don't understand that the Darce was there, the armbar was there. Am I wrong to say that I can expect a little more from Stipe? I want to pump the guy. I want this guy to be the best ever. I don't want a 5-round drag him out with somebody who's only been training 4 years. Am I fair to say that?
When you're in the UFC, there's there's so many different aspects of training. I mean, you got to get your striking is the most important thing because most fights in MMA are on the feet. They start on the feet and they stay on the feet for a while. There's very little groundwork these days. So striking is the most important. Wrestling becomes the second most important. Or they're right there at the top. Jiu-jitsu sometimes is you can convince a fighter that it's really not that necessary to spend that much time developing your jiu-jitsu skills defensively and offensively. It's so there's not that much time between the cardio, the strength training, striking, the naps you got to take, and you got family. Most UFC fighters, I would say, let's say 50%. I won't say most. Let's say 50% of UFC fighters, in my opinion, aren't training their jiu-jitsu like they're training their striking, you know? And,
That's awful.
And not so much. I mean, it's coming out now that Ngannou doesn't really train jiu-jitsu. You know, look how far he got. That guy's not really even training jiu-jitsu, and look how far he got. He got to the UFC heavyweight title fight. So
I have my doubts about Conor with his ground game. We haven't seen it yet.
You know what? He came into my gym a few years ago, and he looked good. And the fact that he came through and jumped in with my animals that I got there shows that you know, he's willing to. The thing about jiu-jitsu is that's different than striking is you could train striking every day and get like the ultimate striking training every day and never get in a winning-losing situation, never get like in an actual fight. You know what I mean? With jiu-jitsu, every day you're getting an actual winning, losing situations where, you know, people are getting tapped out and losing. So that aspect of jiu-jitsu, which is that's the aspect that people get obsessed with and fall in love with. And it's also the aspect that scares the shit out of people and makes them run away from it. They don't want to lose, especially when you're a UFC fighter. If you got to the UFC and you did it without doing jiu-jitsu properly, your jiu-jitsu gets frozen. Like, that's as good as you're going to get, because now that you're famous, you weren't doing jiu-jitsu right to begin with, and now that you're famous, you're definitely not going to do it right, because now you're worried about some blue belt tapping you out because you're a famous UFC fighter and you're going to tell everybody. The ego just gets tremendous, and you see it time and time again. There have been lots of fighters, big, strong dudes with heavy hands that have knocked people out on their way to the UFC. Now they're in the UFC. Now they get choked out. They get taken down. Their jiu-jitsu is exposed, but it's too late. They will never learn jiu-jitsu. They didn't do it before. Now they're never going to do it. Now it's 10 times harder because you're famous. So that's the problem. That's why you don't really see fighters. You don't see an evolution of their groundwork. You don't see, like Marcelo Garcia. You know who that is, right?
Oh, dude, the Marcellatine. Okay. Yes. Marcelo Garcia has a clear history of his evolution of his game. You see it early, Marcelo. You see the arm drags to the back and to the X guard, and then you see the Marcellatines coming in later, and then the crucifix is coming after that. You see an evolution of new techniques that keep sprouting up, and new techniques will keep sprouting up if you train jiu-jitsu right. If you're doing it right, there will be a history of your game. You know, you'll be able to see it. The fans will be able to see it. But in the UFC, you don't really see it. You know, once you get in the UFC, boom, your jiu-jitsu is frozen. Because most UFC fighters, most famous fighters, even in Bellator, they're not training their jiu-jitsu like they should be, in my opinion.
Again,
from what I've seen.
He's Eddie Bravo. And Eddie, listen.
Dude, thank you, man.
You are the man. We have to run because we're cut short, unfortunately.
Dude, we got to go talk to the suits right now. I know how much you love the suits.
But, all right, thank you for having me.
Listen,
man. I appreciate it.
And listen, you got to be in town for the Brooklyn card, obviously, right?
Yes, I will be.
Dude,
there.
in studio. Let's go.
Please come in studio.
Dude. Let's do it. You guys are in Brooklyn? Or
no, we're actually in Manhattan. We're a West Village area.
Let's do it, 100%.
We'll get freaky in the village.
Hell yeah, man.
Okay, cool.
Eddie, listen, we appreciate the time, man. We'll talk to you soon, all right?
Thank you, man.
Later, bud.
Bye.